Every day, an unseen war rages, not between armies or nations, but within the very fabric of our minds. A psychological battlefield where freedom clashes with control, where clarity wrestles with confusion. Invisible forces shape what you believe, how you feel, and ultimately, who you become. They operate behind the scenes, weaving narratives, shaping desires, and constructing realities you scarcely suspect exist. This is not just a story of conspiracy, or is it? It is the story of the quiet, relentless struggle that determines the course of your life. What if I told you the most critical battles are fought not on distant fields, but in the silence of your own mind? Battles most people don't even realize they are engaged in. Every choice you make, what you see, what you ignore, what you accept as truth, is a front line in this invisible war. Yet so many drift unaware, caught in a web of distractions, half-truths and illusions designed to keep them compliant, confused, and confined. But there is another path, a path of awareness, of daily discipline, of awakening. In the next moments, we will uncover 10 things you must work on every single day. These are not mere habits or simple tips. They are the pillars of mental sovereignty. The keys to breaking free from manipulation, unlocking clarity, and reclaiming your reality. The question is simple. Will you fight for your mind, or let it be conquered? To know yourself is to begin the journey toward true freedom. This ancient wisdom, traced back to Socrates' timeless injunction, "Know thyself," is not just philosophical rhetoric. It is the foundation of all personal power and autonomy. Self-awareness is the act of turning the lens inward, of observing the hidden corners of your mind, where biases, fears, and desires quietly dictate your decisions. Without this awareness, we wander blindly through life, puppets to forces we fail to recognize. History offers countless examples of what happens when this vital skill is neglected. Entire societies have fallen victim to manipulation, swept up by propaganda that exploits unexamined beliefs and fears. When self-awareness is dulled, individuals become vulnerable to control, unable to discern truth from deception. Modern psychology reveals why this is so difficult. Our minds are wired with mechanisms designed to protect our sense of identity, even if it means distorting reality. Cognitive dissonance, for instance, pushes us to ignore contradictions that challenge our worldview. Denial shields us from uncomfortable truths. Social conformity pressures us to align with the majority, even when the majority is wrong. These mental defenses, while natural, act as barriers to self-awareness. They trap us in cycles of ignorance, reinforcing the very illusions we need to break free from. The work of self-awareness is not a one-time revelation, but a daily practice. It demands courage to face uncomfortable truths about ourselves and our world. It requires vigilance to notice when our mind tricks us, and discipline to question our automatic reactions. This daily commitment is non-negotiable for anyone who seeks to reclaim their mind and live deliberately. Self-awareness is the first, indispensable step toward escaping manipulation, discovering authenticity, and ultimately gaining freedom. Without it, the invisible battle continues, unnoticed and unwon. Critical thinking is the razor-sharp tool that cuts through the dense fog of misinformation, propaganda, and cognitive traps. It is the mental weapon that shields us from manipulation, yet it remains one of the most neglected skills in a world drowning in noise. History is littered with moments when societies fell victim to lies simply because skepticism was abandoned. From the rise of totalitarian regimes fueled by propaganda to mass hysteria driven by unchallenged rumors, the consequences of failing to question have been catastrophic. Yet in other moments, intellectual rigor and relentless inquiry have saved lives, preserved freedoms, and shattered illusions. At its core, critical thinking is not about cynicism or blind doubt. It is about disciplined curiosity and rigorous examination. It demands that we question everything, the stories fed to us by media, the assumptions whispered in political corridors, and even the beliefs we hold dear within ourselves. Psychology reveals the deep roots of why this is so difficult. Our minds are naturally prone to cognitive biases, mental shortcuts that can mislead us. Confirmation bias tricks us into seeking only information that supports what we already believe, while groupthink pressures us to conform to the prevailing opinion, often at the expense of truth. Imagine a community where everyone repeats the same false narrative because questioning it would mean standing alone. This is the danger of unchallenged conformity. To combat this, cultivating critical thinking must become a daily practice. It requires us to pause, to scrutinize our own reasoning, to challenge the sources we trust, and to embrace intellectual humility. It means developing the courage to hold ideas up to the harsh light of reason, even when uncomfortable. In a world rife with deception, sharpening these mental muscles every day is not a luxury. It is an act of survival. It is the weapon that maintains autonomy over your beliefs, your choices, and ultimately your freedom. Emotions are powerful forces, wild, unpredictable storms that surge beneath the surface of our consciousness. Left unchecked, they can cloud judgment, fuel impulsive decisions, and become tools for manipulation. Powerful entities and social dynamics know this all too well. They exploit our emotional vulnerabilities, stirring fear, anger, or despair to control and divide. Yet within the chaos of emotion lies an untapped reservoir of strength. The ancient Stoics understood this truth. They taught that mastering our emotional responses is not about suppression, but about conscious command, an act of profound freedom. Modern neuroscience now confirms what they intuited. Emotional regulation strengthens neural pathways that enable clarity, resilience, and deliberate action. History offers countless examples of leaders who wielded emotional discipline as their greatest weapon. In moments of crisis, when fear and panic threatened to unravel societies, these individuals maintained calm, made decisions grounded in reason, and inspired others to do the same. Their ability to govern the inner storm shaped destinies. Emotional regulation is not about ignoring how you feel or bottling up pain. It is about recognizing emotions as signals, understanding their roots, and choosing how to respond instead of reacting reflexively. This conscious management transforms chaos into clarity and vulnerability into strength. But mastering this skill demands daily practice. Each day offers a choice: to be swept away by the tides of emotion or to stand firm, anchored by awareness. This is the cornerstone of psychological resilience, the foundation upon which mental clarity and true freedom are built. Without emotional regulation, even the sharpest mind is vulnerable. With it, we reclaim the power to navigate life's most turbulent storms. True wisdom begins with a simple, often uncomfortable truth. The more you know, the more you realize how little you actually know. This paradox lies at the heart of intellectual humility, the courageous willingness to question your own beliefs, admit uncertainty, and embrace the unknown. In today's polarized world, intellectual humility has become a radical act. It stands in stark contrast to the certainty and dogmatism that dominate public discourse, where rigid ideologies often replace open inquiry. Humility resists this pull. It prevents the mind from becoming imprisoned by echo chambers, ideological possession, and the need to be right at all costs. Philosophers across centuries, from Socrates to modern thinkers, have recognized that acknowledging one's ignorance is the first step toward genuine knowledge. It opens the door to growth, dialogue, and transformation. Without humility, the mind closes, dismissing opposing views and hard truths, reinforcing mental blind spots. Contemporary social analysis shows how dangerous this rigidity can be. When entire communities reject doubt, they become fertile ground for manipulation, extremism, and division. Intellectual humility acts as a safeguard, fostering curiosity and empathy, allowing us to see beyond ourselves and our biases. Developing this humility is not a passive surrender, but an active, daily practice. It requires the courage to confront uncomfortable questions about your own beliefs, to hold your ideas lightly, and to welcome uncertainty as a sign of growth rather than weakness. In a world obsessed with certainty, choosing intellectual humility is an act of rebellion and a necessary step toward evolving thought, expanding consciousness, and reclaiming freedom. Truth is rarely gentle. It often arrives wrapped in discomfort, isolation, or overwhelming complexity. To face it fully is to carry a heavy burden, one that many are unwilling or unprepared to bear. Yet this burden is unavoidable for those who seek deeper understanding. Throughout history, those who dared to confront harsh realities, whether political corruption, social injustice, or hidden conspiracies, have often found themselves isolated, misunderstood, or mentally exhausted. The weight of truth can strain the mind, challenge beliefs, and shake foundations. Psychology teaches us that resilience, the capacity to endure adversity without succumbing to despair, is essential for navigating this terrain. Mental resilience is not about avoiding pain or confusion. It is about developing the inner strength to sit with discomfort, to absorb difficult facts without breaking. This resilience is forged through daily practice. Reflection allows us to process and integrate unsettling truths. Meditation builds calm and focus amid chaos. Constructive discomfort, intentionally facing challenges that stretch our limits, strengthens our capacity to endure. Without this resilience, the pursuit of truth can become a source of suffering rather than liberation. It can lead to burnout, cynicism, or retreat into comforting illusions. But with resilience, the seeker stands firm. They transform adversity into growth, confusion into clarity. Mental resilience becomes a shield, protecting not just the mind, but the soul, allowing us to navigate the complexities of truth without losing ourselves. Building this strength is not optional. It is a daily necessity for anyone committed to intellectual and emotional survival in a world that rarely welcomes the truth with open arms. We live in an age of relentless information bombardment. Every day, billions of data points, news headlines, social media posts, videos, and conversations flood our minds. But not all information is equal, and what we choose to consume shapes the very architecture of our thoughts and beliefs. Mindful consumption is the practice of guarding the gate to your mind. It means curating not just what you see, but how you engage with it, consciously choosing sources, questioning motives, and refusing to be a passive sponge soaking up everything indiscriminately. Media theory and psychological research reveal how passive consumption dulls our critical faculties. The constant stream of sensational headlines and emotionally charged content hijacks our attention, triggering emotional reactions before reason has a chance to intervene. This manipulation exploits our mental shortcuts, leaving us vulnerable to persuasion and control. When we allow our minds to be cluttered with unchecked input, our worldview becomes fragmented and distorted. We begin to see the world not as it is, but as the loudest voices want us to see it. Taking daily inventory of your information diet becomes a radical act of self-preservation. It requires discipline to step back, to ask, what am I feeding my mind? Is this source reliable? Am I seeking truth or just confirmation? Am I enriching my understanding or simply drowning in noise? This conscious vigilance is not about avoidance, but about intentional engagement. It is about reclaiming autonomy over your mental space and protecting yourself from manipulation. Guarding the mind's gate through mindful consumption is an essential daily practice. In a world engineered to distract and deceive, it is the frontline defense of clarity and freedom. Empathy is often seen as kindness or compassion, a soft skill reserved for moments of personal connection, but its power runs far deeper. Empathy is a vital intellectual and social tool that allows us to see beyond the confines of our own experience and understand the lives and struggles of others. When we cultivate empathy, especially toward those living under systems of power and oppression, we begin to unravel the invisible threads that bind society. We detect patterns of control, manipulation, and division that often go unnoticed when viewed from a narrow, self-centered perspective. History is rich with examples of how empathy has sparked solidarity and resistance. Movements for justice and equality have thrived when individuals dared to step outside themselves and recognize shared humanity. Conversely, the absence of empathy has been exploited to sow division, mistrust, and fear, powerful tools used to fracture societies and maintain control. Psychological studies show that empathy enhances not just emotional understanding, but cognitive insight. It expands our ability to critically analyze social structures and question dominant narratives. It is through empathy that we begin to see the systemic nature of injustice and deception, rather than blaming individuals or isolated events. But empathy, like any skill, requires daily practice. It demands the willingness to listen deeply, to challenge our biases, and to resist the urge to judge or dismiss perspectives unfamiliar or uncomfortable. In cultivating empathy and social awareness, we open a door to profound social critique and meaningful engagement. It becomes a shield against manipulation through division and a bridge toward collective liberation. To truly understand the world and to change it, we must first learn to see beyond ourselves. Physical health is often overlooked in conversations about intellect and self-mastery. Yet the body is the hidden catalyst behind every thought, every emotion, every decision. Without it, the mind's sharpest insights and deepest reflections lose their power. Neuroscience reveals the profound connection between physical well-being and mental clarity. Quality sleep resets our brain, consolidating memory and sharpening focus. Proper nutrition fuels the neurons that carry our thoughts, while regular exercise releases chemicals that boost mood and resilience. Philosophers from antiquity to modern times recognize this unity. The routines of great thinkers and leaders, from Aristotle's daily walks to Benjamin Franklin's strict schedule, remind us that caring for the body is inseparable from cultivating the mind. Neglect physical health, and cognitive fog descends. Emotional volatility increases. The capacity to endure daily challenges diminishes. Maintaining your physical health is not a luxury, it is the foundation for all other inner work. It primes the mind for self-awareness, critical thinking, emotional regulation, and every other battle on this list. Commit to daily physical upkeep. Prioritize sleep. Nourish your body consciously. Move it regularly. These simple acts anchor you, enhancing your mental resilience and sharpening your intellectual edge. In the invisible war within, the body is your first line of defense. Care for it, and you empower every other aspect of your struggle. Reflection is the deliberate act of turning inward to review our thoughts, behaviors, and experiences. It is the mirror in which progress becomes visible. AA, practice that deepens self-awareness and fuels transformation. While self-awareness plants the seed, reflection nurtures its growth. It is a cyclical process, where insight leads to action, and action demands honest evaluation. Without reflection, change is shallow and fleeting. Philosophers through the ages have embraced reflection as a sacred ritual. Journaling, meditation, and contemplative practices have long served as tools to capture and examine the ever-shifting landscape of the mind. Even modern therapy recognizes the power of reflection to heal wounds, break patterns, and unlock hidden truths. History offers countless examples of transformation born from reflection. Leaders, artists, and thinkers have credited their breakthroughs not to external circumstances, but to the quiet moments spent confronting their own minds. It is in this pause, this intentional stepping back, that clarity emerges and purpose sharpens. Daily reflection demands honesty and courage. It means facing uncomfortable truths about ourselves and our actions without judgment. It is a practice of accountability, humility, and relentless curiosity. In the invisible battle for truth and freedom, reflection is the compass that keeps us on course. It reveals where we've strayed, where we've grown, and where the path ahead requires courage. Without it, we risk wandering aimlessly, trapped in the patterns we seek to escape. But with daily reflection, every step forward becomes a conscious, a meaningful stride toward clarity, authenticity, and liberation. All the insight, awareness, and reflection in the world mean little without one crucial step: action. This final pillar, the transition from inner work to outward impact, is where thought becomes reality, where intention meets transformation. Philosophy calls this praxis, the unity of theory and practice. It is not enough to understand or to feel. To truly change, we must act. Purposeful action challenges existing power structures, disrupts complacency, and breathes life into the vision of a freer, more conscious society. History is shaped by those who dared to turn their convictions into deeds. Activists who risked everything for justice, thinkers who spoke uncomfortable truths, whistleblowers who exposed hidden corruption, all embody the courage to move beyond thought and embody change. Purposeful action does not require grand gestures. It begins with small, consistent steps, speaking up when silence feels easier, questioning authority when obedience is expected, nurturing communities when isolation is the norm. Each daily choice becomes a declaration of intellectual and ethical commitment. This is the ultimate test of everything we have explored: self-awareness, critical thinking, emotional regulation, humility, resilience, mindful consumption, empathy, physical health, reflection. Without action, these tools remain dormant, their power unrealized. But when combined with conscious effort, they become a force that shapes reality. They allow us to reclaim agency in a world intent on diminishing. The work you do on yourself is not a solitary journey. It is a call to arms, a challenge to embody the principles you cherish, to stand firm against manipulation and control, and to live as an active participant in the creation of a better world. In committing to purposeful action every day, you transform from a passive observer into a catalyst for change. This is where freedom truly begins. The invisible battle we first spoke of is not some distant myth or abstract idea. It is real, relentless, and happening within each of us every day. This is the war for your mind, your freedom, your very existence. The 10 practices we have explored: self-awareness, critical thinking, emotional regulation, intellectual humility, resilience, mindful consumption, empathy, physical health, reflection, and purposeful action, are far more than habits. They are acts of rebellion. Rebellion against manipulation, conformity, and passivity. Each day you choose to engage in this work, you take a stand. You declare that you will no longer be a passive player in a game rigged by unseen forces. You become a guardian of your own mind, vigilant and empowered. But this battle is not fought in isolation. It is a collective struggle, a movement toward a freer, clearer, more authentic society. Each individual awakening adds strength to the whole. The responsibility is immense, but so is the opportunity. To fight for truth is to fight for a better world, not just for yourself, but for everyone. The choice is yours: to surrender to the currents of distraction and deception, or to rise daily, sharpen your mind and spirit, and reclaim what is rightfully yours. Freedom is not given. It is earned in the small, consistent actions of every day. So rise, fight, become the architect of your own reality and the guardian of a freer tomorrow. The invisible battle continues, and the question remains: will you answer the call?